I'll be looking around for body language movement. So just disregard me looking around. It's just a blank wall. Good evening. Today, I'll be talking about something that affects each and every single one of us, regardless of race, ethnic background, religion, and sexuality. Because it is part of the human experience. We all get to experience these desires and needs throughout our lifetime. My goal today is to bring that the idea of forming a healthier generation that is highly educated on sexual education, it can help reduce sexually transmitted diseases and infections. It can reduce sexual violence and empower the young people with knowledge on this topic. We also need to stop the culture that feeds students shame into wanting sexual desires. Instead, shift it to a new science-based model that focuses on healthy sexual awareness and decision-making by unbiased, medically educated and comprehensive lessons to the youth and the younger generation of America today. Our country is going through a health crisis that the youth is not getting the proper tools and education they need to navigate around sex culture. When you think about sex, it is everywhere you look. On the TVs, from the Carl's Jr.'s commercials that makes a big deal out of who the model that they're gonna pick, the beautiful, gorgeous model with the beautiful body, and how she's gonna bite into that burger. But we can watch those commercials and we can let our children watch those commercials, but yet when it comes to talking about it in the classroom, we shy away from those things. Why? Many people don't agree with the idea of sexual education taught to their kids. Most parents think like this is because of their religious or cultural backgrounds. They teach their kids about abstinence, and the more so make it a topic that is more scary than healthy, and try to drive them to be afraid of something that is super and extremely natural for humans to do. According to Planned Parenthood, 37 states have laws required that abstinence is included in their sexual education. Only 18 states require education to also inform about things like birth control. That's as far as they can go. Many states don't even teach the younger generation about what sex is. What is it between a man or a woman and a woman, or a man and a man? These things are not taught to our generation. And that's why we have one of the highest rates of HIV and AIDS and STDs in the world. Only about 26 states and the District of Columbia require it to be age appropriate and only about 26 states and the District of Columbia require it to be age appropriate and medically accurate, which means that these teachers are not required to teach facts. They're not required to teach what's in the books. They could just talk about whatever they want, which is mostly going to be about abstinence and how sex is a sin and how no one should be having sex before marriage. But even though it's before marriage, sexual needs and desires are going to be met one way or the other. Doesn't mean you're waiting for marriage. Doesn't mean you're not going to have sex. People are still not going to know about that. This is more of a health issue. This argument has been very relevant ever since the 70s. It was the peak of HIV and STDs in America, and also AIDS. Everyone was afraid to even touch or share straws. We know people who got this infection, up to people like Freddie Mercury, who has died because of AIDS. People weren't highly educated on this topic, and many people have died because of this. According to UNESCO, the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, comprehensive sexual education is a curriculum-based process of technicality and learning about the cognitive, emotional, physical, and social aspects of sexuality. It aims to equip the children and young people with knowledge, skills, and attitudes and value that will empower them to realize their health, well-being, and dignity, and develop a social and sexual relationship in a healthy manner. So you would think, based off these many things that I just stated, that people would be on board 100% to teach the younger youth and generation of America about their own bodies. But that's not the case. Going back to the issue with parents, some also don't want their children to learn about sexual education because they think it will make them even more curious and they will go out and experiment even more. But according to UNESCO, that is the opposite. The more you are taught to abstain from things, the more you are likely to do it on the down low. The more likely you are going to try to experiment with them and you have no idea what you're doing. Those things lead to teen pregnancies, again, sexually transmitted diseases, and the lack of knowledge of what your own body can do. Again, looking at Planned Parenthood studies, in 2011 and 2013, 43% of adolescent females and 57% of adolescent males were taught about birth control. The rest of the youth has no idea what birth control is and what type of contraceptives that we can afford. Many people know it by the pill, but they don't know the side effects, they don't know what it can do, they don't know the types of forms of birth control because there's at least 10. So, they did not receive the information needed before their first time having sex. So this can lead, again, to teen pregnancies and STDs. Sexual education has a positive effect, including increasing people's knowledge and studies on this topic, improving their attitudes related to sexual and reproductive health and behaviors. Again, this is a very important topic, and the key to help parents understand even more, sexual education is in and out of school does not increase the sexual activity, but only thing that it will increase is the lack of education and the sexual risk that these kids are going to take. STDs and HIV and AIDS can also be brought down from one parent to the other. So some don't even inform their children that they do have something that is very, very serious. And they could go out and experiment and they wouldn't even know. According to the most recent polls done by Planned Parenthood, over 93% of parents support having sexual education taught in middle school, and over 96% of parents agree that high school should also be on board with this idea. But only 39 states in the District of Columbia require sex education. Only 9 states currently require the discussion of LGBTQ+ identities and relationships. 7 southern states either prohibit education and the discussion of the quality and sexual needs about the LGBTQ+ community and identities and relationships. These laws further stigmate LGBTQ+ youth and leave them without information they need to protect their sexual health, putting them at a greater and higher risk of STDs, pregnancy, and unhealthy and abusive relationships. It is 2020. Based off of all of the information that I just gave you, I have found and looked for the facts and the data to prove that sexual education is better for the youth and society in general. I hope that I improved your knowledge on this topic today, and I wish you do the same with somebody else. Thank you.